Thank you, Cathaoirleach, and thank you, Minister. Minister, I think the unfortunate thing about all of this is that it could have been avoided with proper budgeting and proper planning. And I think putting the blame over on Bus Éireann, that you looked at all the options and that they didn't raise any issue, I think is deflecting responsibility. It is your responsibility. It was referred to earlier on about you inheriting this, the criteria and inheriting it. We have to be mindful that you inherited it from your own government, from Fianna Fáil, when Mary Coughlin set out 2009, 2010 to destroy school transport in the way that it has been done, to segregate children into concessionary and ones that are eligible. The school transport system was working perfectly well until your own government got their hands on it. So we have to take responsibility there, and there has to be accountability how we've ended up in this situation, the situation where we're forcing children to attend schools that don't teach the subjects of their choice, to force them to go to all boys or all girls schools, to force them to attend particularly religious schools as well. This is what we have done to school transport, and this is the criteria that we have presented. This year, families had a reasonable expectation that they would have a seat on the school bus. Their work patterns and their commitments reflected this. We talk about the impact and the cost of living, absolutely, and that was the intention. But what has happened to these parents is that they now have the additional cost of petrol and diesel, as well as having to give up jobs and to cut their working hours. How can that be helping them with their cost of living? Or are they just the collateral damage, or the cohort, as we refer to them as? Do you understand the impact on these children who are left on the side of the road, children, you were in Mayo last week, children in Strayed who are trying to get to Castlebar, who are refused a seat on the bus, the impact on their mental health of not being allowed to get those seats on the bus, and indeed on the bus driver who has to refuse them the seat on the bus. The damage that has been done here is absolutely enormous, and I think, as was said, I really do think that you need to apologise to those parents who have paid year on for a seat on the bus. But the inflexibility around school transport is absolutely atrocious, and what we are doing to our children is not acceptable. So I have to ask you, could this have been avoided? And what are you going to do? Like, if the funding had, and I know you're saying that in the budget, it'd be allowed for in the budget, but if sufficient funding had been there in the first place, all of this could have been avoided in the planning and the budgeting stage.
Just in the first instance, Deputy, and thank you for your remarks. Bus Éireann have fulfilled their obligations, and they're working to fill the obligations that are outstanding. Their obligation was to cater for those who have applied on time and fulfilled the criteria. And that's the, it would not have been appropriate to change the criteria midstream in the midst of an entire review of the school transport system. And it would have thrown up other issues and other challenges. So Bus Éireann have been charged with providing the transport for those who fulfil the criteria and registered on time. They are doing that. 124,000 children and young people are benefiting from that, a 21% increase on where we were last year. And equally so, when you speak about concessionaries, and again I have to repeat the point here, concessionaries are those who don't meet the criteria. Concessionaries are those who receive a seat on the bus where there is availability after those who are eligible have received a seat. This year alone, despite what is being discussed here, there has been an increase of one-third on concessionaries receiving seats on a bus, notwithstanding that there are those who may have received tickets in the past as concessionaries. That can change year on year. It's not unique to this year. And I've referenced the fact that there can be changes in a locality, whether it's families moving in, housing developments or whatever. Concessionaries know that, they're aware of that. But I do not take from the difficulties and the challenges that it's providing for families. So therefore, I have said, we are doing all that we can to go an extra mile, as it were, no pun intended, for the families who are outside of the system currently, who are concessionaries, not eligible, but I am in discussions with the Minister to see if there's scope in this budget. The initiative initially was obviously, as is always within the school transport system, to meet the obligation to those who are eligible and meet the criteria. That has been done and is being done. And as I say, the discussions
Minister,
in terms of
are you aware
those
of
who
the
are outside.
situation in Strade from your visit to Mayo? Are you aware of the situation there with 20+ children?
I am aware that in instances around the country, there are examples of those who received concessionary passes for the bus in the past and have not received them this year. I'm also aware that throughout the country there are those who received concessionary passes last year and in previous years and have received them again this year. And indeed, as I've said to you, there has been a 1/3 increase in those concessionaries. There are instances, and I have made it clear to you, we will see in the context of this budget what we can do for those particular cohorts who
Minister,
find themselves
what are
outside
you
the
doing to
system.
bring forward the review? Because the review now is really, really urgent, probably one of the most urgent things. What are you doing to bring that forward so that we have it published, that the recommendations then within the review can be implemented to change this
again,
crazy
and I have
criteria?
answered the question previously in terms of the review. I instigated the review. I know that there are opportunities to do things differently within the school transport system. No one knows that better than myself. I come from a rural constituency and I appreciate the value of the school transport system. And interestingly, I think this whole debate has highlighted all the more the value of the school transport system. We have engaged extensively. We are at this point in terms of analysing the various engagements that we have had, stakeholder engagement, parents, students, bus providers, bus operators, even going beyond our own expertise within the country and going outside of it to our European counterparts. So there is a significant body of work and we are working as quickly as we possibly can to complete it.
Thank you.